Hi, this is estate planning lawyer Michael Pevney, and in this video we are going to talk about the benefits and the drawbacks to a transfer on death property deed. But before that, if you're interested in estate planning information, please subscribe to this channel for more information, hit the like button, and please comment in the comments. You can ask an estate planning question. I'm usually able to get back to them pretty quickly. So, a transfer on death deed is a way to transfer your home, your property, to somebody else after you're gone without it having to go through probate. Now, probate in California is the government-run and court-supervised asset distribution program. It's really expensive, and it takes a very long time, and it can end up in a big mess. So one of the things that the state legislature did to prevent that and to be able to bypass that is you can actually list on the deed to your property who you want the beneficiary to be. So you can leave it to one child or more than one child, and that way it just basically goes directly through them to them without having to go through this entire probate process. And just as an example, where I practice in Orange County, the average sales price for a home is about $1 million. And to get $1 million property through probate, it costs close to $50,000. That's 50, not 15. $50,000 just to get it through probate. So probate is something that we really want to avoid. It's usually one of the main goals of most of my clients, and it's something that I help my clients achieve. So a transfer on death deed is one way to do that. So one of the benefits of a transfer on death deed, of course, is avoiding probate, and it's not as expensive as setting up an estate plan. Now you need to be very clear and very certain and very careful that you write this deed up properly. Everything has to be just so, and it has to be filed properly with the Office of the County Clerk Recorder with all the correct forms and the correct fees and everything like that. So that's the main benefit, is that it's a little bit cheaper than setting up an estate plan, and it will not go through probate. I do not recommend that my clients get and use a transfer on death property deed to pass on their home to the people that they love, to the people that they want to inherit the property after they pass away. And here's a few reasons why. First, they're not flexible. So let's say you want to leave something to a child. You have an only child, and the child passes away, okay, before you pass away. And that's a terrible situation, but it does happen. So your child passes away before you pass away, but they're listed, your now deceased child is listed on the transfer on death deed. Now there's no beneficiary to leave it to. It would unnecessarily and needlessly have to go through that entire probate process. Now, if they have kids of their own, that's probably where you would want it to go, but that's not really an option on the transfer on death deed. So it's going to have to go through probate, and that $50,000. If you have things left to more than one child, right? Say you have 3 children, one of them passes away, leaving kids behind. It's going to be split between the 2 remaining children. So there's a lack of flexibility in these types of deeds. Also, what happens to it after you're gone? How do you want the property treated after you're gone? So same situation, you leave the transfer on death deed, the beneficiaries are your 3 kids. But now what are they going to do with the home, right? One wants to sell it, one wants to live in it, one wants to rent it out as a rental property and use it as some sort of an ongoing business. You don't have any control over that after you're gone. It just belongs to the 3 of them, and they got to work it out on their own. Just think about if you've ever been in this situation or known anybody in this situation, their parents have died, now they own the house with the siblings, and they got to figure out what to do with it, and what kind of strife or ill will does that ever cause. Another reason, it is subject to creditors, meaning if you owe money to somebody, if your beneficiary owns money to somebody, you leave it to your kids, the kids owe money to somebody, those creditors, if there's a judgment against them or a bankruptcy or some other, someone else that they owe money to, that home is now subject to having a lien put on it, just because it belongs to them in their names outright. There's no way to protect that inheritance from their creditors. Another reason, leaving things to young kids can be a little bit risky, right? Now, technically, you can put the names of someone that's under the age of 18 on one of these transfer on death deeds. That can be a beneficiary, but they're not going to have full legal control until they turn 18, and somebody else is going to be managing it for them, and you don't get to control necessarily who's going to be managing it for them. It's going to be a guardian, right? So there's a guardian of the person and a guardian of the estate. Sometimes it's the same person, sometimes it's a different person, but somebody else is going to be managing that property, and as soon as the kid turns 18, they're going to get to do with it whatever they want to. And if that house is worth hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, and they can just sell it like that and do whatever they want with the money, there are no strings attached. Another drawback to a transfer on death deed beneficiary is that there's nothing in place for your own disability. Okay, so if you become disabled or incapacitated, but you're still alive, you might need somebody to control what's going to happen with that home. It might need to be sold. It might need to be to cover medical costs or for whatever reason. And because you've created that deed, it's only going to go to the person you want it to go to when you're actually gone. But now, since you're incapacitated, you're going to have to go through probate court likely to get a conservator appointed, and that conservator may or may not be somebody that you want it to be. So unless you've set a document out about who you want your conservator to be, you might get stuck in one of these Britney Spears situations where somebody that she did not want to be her conservator is now in charge of her and all of her property, and who it's going to end up going to. So it's very inflexible. These deeds are very inflexible when it comes to your own disability and your own incapacity. So the solution to all of this is to create a trust. For most of my clients, I create a revocable living trust. And then after we create the trust, we put the home inside of the trust. We draw up a deed and we put the home inside of the trust. And that achieves that goal of not having to go through 1.5 to 2 years of probate court and $50,000, all right? The cost of probate pales the cost of probate is massive compared to the cost of what it is to actually set up a complete estate plan with a revocable living trust. But now the trust gives you so much control. You can put in there alternate situations. If somebody passes away, you can put in there backups to backups to backups if somebody passes away, and then you can control what happens to that home, to that property for many years after you're gone. You can say that, yes, I want this house to be rented out. I want all the rental income to go to my children, and then once my children die, I want the home sold, and I want all the proceeds split among my grandkids. Clearly something you're not able to do with one of these deeds. The trust can say, I want the home sold immediately upon my death, and I want it split up among the kids and in different percentages. Or you can say that I want the house sold, I want the money invested properly, and it given to the kids at very specific ages. And because this home is going to be in a trust, you can put on there conditions and specific language in there that it is not subject to a creditor. So if someone's going through either whether it's a messy divorce or a bankruptcy or has a judgment from a lawsuit against them, we can make sure that that home, that property is protected against that. So putting a home into a living trust has so many more benefits than using one of these transfer on death deeds. Now, the transfer on death deed does have a benefit in that it avoids probate and you can say where it's going to go, but it lacks the flexibility that most of my clients require, which is why I do not recommend for most of my clients doing that. So if you've got questions about this or anything else related to estate planning, you can set up a time to meet with me for free by going to ocestateplanlawyer.com. Link should be in the description. Subscribe to this channel for more information, and you're welcome.